Thank you and good morning, everyone, and a big welcome to session 2 of Represent, which is our virtual event series centered around learning, support and community. So over the next 4 weeks, what we're going to do is focusing on helping you create an amazing application, learn how to champion your potential and find a place to belong as well. So here at NatWest, we're really passionate about helping people, families and businesses to thrive, and that's exactly what we're here to do. We want to encourage quality applications from a diverse group of students to our graduate jobs and internships, because we know that being diverse and inclusive helps our customers and colleagues achieve their goals and thrive. So my name is Nikki. I work on our early careers team in the marketing side of things, and I'm going to be facilitating today's event. In today's session, which we did know would be quite popular, we'll be giving you the inside scoop on our application process and providing some top tips for making a successful application with us. But don't just take my word for it. We've got some of our amazing graduates on the call as well, who nailed our application process and were successful in being made offers. So joining us today, we've got Sally, who is in her second year of our HR graduate program. Adam, who is in his second year of our software engineering program, and Zanang, who has recently completed his technology graduate program, which is now known as our software engineering pathway, and has secured a role as a data scientist. So we've got a great mix of guys here to come and chat to you at the end when we do a panel discussion. And you're also in luck because we have Tom on the call today, who is one of our recruiters, and he's going to be here to offer his expertise for the Q&A part at the end. So we've got loads of people here to give you some great advice and tips moving forward for your application. So how it's going to work today is that we're going to be running a conversational style panel with our graduates, and you'll get the chance at the end to ask your own questions too. So there is a Q&A function at the bottom. If you have questions as we go through, pop them in that section and we'll come to them at the end for you. So if you think of something, pop it in there. And if you're joining on a mobile device, some of the slides might be a bit difficult to see, but don't worry. All of the information will be available via links that we'll share at the end of the series. So you'll get all of that for you. So don't worry if you can't see some of the detail. So if we just go on to the next slide. So to start us off today, what I'm going to do is give you a bit more insight into our programs and our application process itself, just so you'll know what to expect when it comes to the time to apply. Then we'll go on to our graduate panel and hear from them on some top tips for applying. So we've got graduate, intern and Insight Week programs in NatWest Group, and they're going to offer you both structured and supported learning. And we've got 17 different pathways that allow you to join the parts of the business that suit you best. Our application process is designed to find out about you as a person. So you're the person who's coming to work for us. So we don't need to know so much about your experience or job history, but more about you as a person. If you don't have any work experience, that's absolutely okay, because you don't need it for our programs and we don't screen people out. And this is for 2 reasons. So firstly, it's for social mobility. We want to make sure it's fair for everyone, regardless of their social background. And also we want to see how you'll work at NatWest Group. So we assess you on your own competencies. So it doesn't really matter who you've worked for before. You also don't have to have a specific degree background either, so candidates from any degree can apply to our roles. This is to make sure that we're attracting diverse talent with brilliant ideas. So we want to be innovative. Asking candidates from all degree backgrounds to apply is a great way of bringing in that diverse talent. You also don't need a CV, which might be some good news to most people. Everything we need and want to know about you, we get from the application process. So people do still ask us, can we submit a CV? Yes, you can, but you do still need to go through the full process to make sure that we're treating everyone fairly and consistently. But there is something to be aware of, and that is that most of our programs do require you to have a 2-1 or to be on track for at least a 2-1. So do keep that in mind when you're applying. So without a CV, how do we assess if you're the right fit? So if we go on to the next slide, you'll see, so we've got a number of different capabilities that we would like to see in our employees, or that we'd like our employees to develop. So this slide goes through them for you. So we've identified 5 different capabilities that will help the bank be successful now and in the future. And at every step of the application process, we're going to assess you against these 5 capabilities. So it's really important to take note and to have a think around these and how you might fit some of them as well. So I'm going to run through what they are for you just now. So firstly, we've got Improver Innovator. So this is all about generating and driving new ideas and ways of working. You don't necessarily have to be the next entrepreneur or inventor, but we do like to see that you're focused on continuous improvement. How have you made a process better in the past? Next, we've got critical thinkers. So this one's about logical reasoning, using your judgment and decision making. Do you understand the bigger picture, and can you make complex things simple? Next, we have trusted advisors. So we think of trusted advisors as true partners to our customers. They build their knowledge and credibility, they have effective communication, and they've got that warmth, empathy, and emotional intelligence needed when serving customers. Can you link this back to a time when you had to build trust with customers, and how did you do that? Might be in a casual job that you've got. It doesn't necessarily have to be through work experience, though. It could be through volunteering or any extracurricular activities you might have done as well. Then we've also got change ready. So this is all about participating in a world that's constantly changing. It's about being adaptable and open to learning new things so that we can deliver our strategy well and at pace. Are you comfortable with ambiguity, and are you resilient? They're the sorts of things that we're looking for through change ready. And then last but not least, we've got connected. So connected people are able to collaborate across boundaries and create networks. So it's about bringing people together in an active way. So for this, think about a time where you've really had to bring people together in a situation. Might have been at a group, a uni group situation or something like that. So there are 5 people capabilities, and definitely important to take a note. So that's a top tip from me. On to what our application journey is going to look like for you at NatWest Group. So a number of large graduate employers are going to use a very similar process. So hopefully you're going to find the hints and tips that we go through today useful for any other applications that you choose to make as well. But there's 5 stages to our early careers application process. And from start to finish, it takes around 10 working days to complete, providing that you do everything we need you to do promptly, which we would advise that you do. When you pass your video interview, you might have to wait anywhere between 1 to 3 months to get an invite to an assessment centre. So that's something just to keep in mind. So don't worry if you've not heard back. It's just because we fill our assessment centres based on which programmes run them first. So there could be a wait period there. But you're invited to each stage within 48 hours of completing the last stage. So it really is a speedy process and can move through it very quickly. So let's go through the different stages with you as well. So firstly, you're going to be submitting an application form, and this is quite basic, straightforward stuff. So details like your address, your degree, gender, contact details, all of that sort of stuff. And what we would ask is that you just make sure that's all correct, especially your contact details, as this is how we will be sending you the next stages of the process. Once you've completed the form, you'll click submit and your application journey begins. So we'll then ask you to complete some online testing stages. So the first stage of this is the situational judgment test. That's going to look to understand how you'd react in certain situations and what you'd be like at work. You don't have a time limit on this, but we just say don't overthink your answers. Go with what you sort of your first gut feeling is on these ones, because we really want to understand you and how you react to situations. You'll then be passed through to our numerical testing if you pass your SJT. And this is really just to get an understanding of basic numbers-based problems and how you deal with those. And then you'll also move through to our verbal reasoning test to check your comprehension and your logical reasoning skills. Both of these tests are timed though, so it's worth doing some practice ones online if you've never done them before. So that's going to help you out with what to expect and how to manage those timings, because it can be quite stressful if you've got the clock ticking down in the corner. So we would say do some practice tests online before you try our tests out. So if you pass all of our online testing, you'll be invited to complete a video interview. Don't let this scare you. So it might seem a little bit unnatural to speak to yourself on camera, but this is a really great opportunity for you to bring your skills and competencies to life and also to show us why you want to work at NatWest Group. You'll be asked about your motivation for joining, as well as some behavioural type questions too. The questions will be timed for this, so you won't see them before you start. So make sure you make the best use of time to get your points across, and have some notes there if you want, that's completely fine. But do just keep in mind that there will be a time limit and it will cut off at the end of the time. If you pass our video assessment, so got through all of these processes, next stage is our assessment centre stage. So this year we will be running these virtually, and we've worked hard to really make sure that we're still able to deliver the best possible experience and give you that really fair chance to show your capabilities as well. So what will the virtual assessment centre involve? It's likely to take up most of your day. So first thing to note is if you do have an assessment centre booked in, keep that full day free so that you can focus just on that. And you're going to go through 3 different activities overall throughout the day. So there'll be a group discussion. You'll work together with other candidates to address a business challenge. An interactive activity where you'll have a meeting with a colleague or a customer. And then you'll have an interview component as well. So in this, you'll be one-to-one with an assessor who's going to ask you questions around your motivation for joining us and the program that you've applied for. And they're also going to talk about examples of where you've demonstrated capabilities that we've identified as important for success at NatWest Group. So that's the assessment centre. If we go on to the next slide, what we're going to do is just chat you through our suggested approach for tackling interview preparation, which can often be the most daunting part of assessment for students. So firstly and foremost, we would ask you to familiarise yourself with the STAR technique. So Dave, you might just have to click. I think the slide hasn't loaded all there we go. Lovely. So familiarise yourself with the STAR technique. And this is just a great way to make sure that when you're asked a question, you're covering all the different parts of the question and that you're highlighting what you did in a situation, not necessarily in a group, but what you did and what the outcome was. So have a look at this. Try practicing some questions and mapping them out in the STAR technique. It's really going to help you out. Then, as the example shows on our next slide, what we would say is to start plotting real life examples against the competencies or traits that an organization wants to see in its graduates. So on our example here, you'll see that we've used our CPCs that I ran through just before, but most organizations are going to have their own and they will state this on their website. So it just takes a little bit of research into what an organization might see as their most critical, I guess, capabilities for graduates. So for example, here, you might have a part-time job where you made an improvement to a process or you changed a way that something's always been done for the better. And these would be really great examples for our improver innovator competency. You might also have had to deal with a difficult customer, which would show us the traits associated with trusted advisor. So have a go at doing that activity before you come into an interview situation. And it's really going to help you just have those examples in your back pocket to use when the questions come up. So that is our application journey, and hopefully that brought that to life a little bit more for you. But to do that even further, what we're going to do is go to our graduate panel now. So they're going to give their advice on the application process, and they've all gone through it, a very similar process. So it's going to be great to hear from them some great tips for each stage. So to kick us off, I think let's meet the panel a little bit more and get them to introduce themselves and get us started. So we might come to Sally first. Sally, do you want to give us a quick introduction to yourself?
Yeah, of course. So hi everyone, I'm Sally and I am on the Human Resources grad scheme. I joined the bank in September of last year, so we've just come up to our 1-year anniversary. I'm just moving into my 3rd placement, which is in the diversity and inclusion team. And it's actually the team that I did my internship in back in 2019. So I'm really excited to get working with the team that I know quite well and just kind of see what's available within this area. Aside from my kind of day role, I also am a lead for one of our graduate councils. So it's the Engagement Council. And the purpose of this group is to encourage and help out early career with attraction and engagement of potential interns and graduates for our schemes. There's lots of different graduate councils, so it's just something that you can do to kind of help out and get to meet lots of other grads as well, which is amazing. I'm also on the Scotland committee for the Gender Network. So there's different employee-led networks within the bank, and Gender Network is just one of them. And as the name kind of hints, we aim to just promote equality in terms of gender throughout the banks. We do lots of different things, for example, supporting charities and running different development events for women as well. Aside from this, I'm also an inclusion champion. So the purpose of an inclusion champion is just to really spread awareness of all the work that goes on within diversity and inclusion and different kind of events and learning opportunities as well. So I think that's it from me. I'm really looking forward to kind of answering any more questions that you guys have and just kind of hearing anything that you would like to hear from us as well. So thanks, Nikki.
Great, thanks, Sally. And as you can see from Sally there's so many opportunities to get involved in things outside of your role at NatWest Group. We have loads of different groups and initiatives and things like that. So I think, yeah, Sally's got herself involved in loads of different things, which is amazing. We'll come to Adam next. So Adam, would you want to give yourself a quick introduction?
Hello, everyone. Nice to virtually meet you all. So I'm Adam Sadiq. I'm in the software engineering graduate program, and I've been, same as Sally, here for around a year. So it's been quite a long time, but it's actually gone quite fast. So in my current team, I'm in the mobile team. So I guess I kind of popular the NatWest mobile banking app. And I'm a test analyst within the server team. It's probably quite confusing, but it just involves a lot of architectural stuff. So there's so many different types of things you have to do with the mobile team. And even as a graduate, there are lots of stuff that you can do. So I'm quite happy to be in this team. Aside from that, I'm also part of the multicultural network. So Sally was talking about other graduate networks. So there's graduate networks and there's also bank-wide networks as well. So we do a lot of stuff to do with inclusion. And within that, I'm also involved in the Christian network as well. A bit more about myself outside of work is that I'm born and bred in London from Nigeria. And I guess thinking about my background, I did grow up in not the best area in London, so some crime here and there. And I grew up in a state school called Archbishop Tennyson's. I don't know if anyone on the school is from that school. That'd be really good. But I got the grad offer through doing an internship. And the good thing about that is that even for the internship, for the technology internship, you don't necessarily need a technology degree. So it's lots of opportunities to get involved. And I got the grad offer through that. And as a graduate in NatWest, I've been able to actually share my learnings. NatWest is very big on knowledge sharing and sharing things with others. So I've been able to teach people how to code. And hopefully in a couple of months, I'll be leading a big course to teach lots of employees in the bank if they want to sharpen up their Python skills. So that's just a bit about me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to answer any questions that you have.
Great, thanks, Adam. And I feel like I would need some of your help in coding. I've not got a Scooby on how it all works. It's all very impressive though, but thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And Zanang, lucky last, will come to you. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, morning, everyone. My name's Zanang. I studied engineering at uni and then began my journey on the technology graduate scheme back in 2019. So I've been in the bank for just about 2 years now. I had a very exciting journey through different areas of the bank, but I have begun a new role in the climate data team. So this is a team that builds models that calculate the emissions that we're responsible for through our support of other businesses. So we're looking to make smarter choices by supporting people that are more aware of their environmental impact. I'm also part of the Black Professionals Network and also the ethnicity allies who seek to create a more inclusive culture in the bank. And I've held events before that looked to provide a safe space where we could discuss some of the issues that colleagues of ethnic minorities are facing and sort of look at how we can address them and make progress in these areas as an organization. A bit more about me personally. So I'm based in Edinburgh, Edinburgh born and bred, also a Nigerian. And yeah, I would say I've had a good childhood. I grew up in a nice area nearby Edinburgh called Livingston. So it's kind of one of those suburbs. And yeah, that's my story.
Fantastic. Thanks, Anang. And it's great to hear that the stuff you're doing, not only in your work, but also outside of your work, is really just directly impacting our purpose. So that's fantastic. Thank you. Great. So we're going to get straight into questions for you all. We're dying to hear your advice and get some of those tips out of you. So without further ado, I'd love to first start with hearing your tips for how you went about researching a company before making an application, because obviously, there's so many different companies out there that provide internships and graduate jobs and all of that sort of stuff. So what sort of things did you guys look out for to help with your application back when you were applying? Who wants to start? If they could just come off mute if you want to.
Yeah, I'll go. So this is one of the first things I do when I actually try and seek to apply to any company. I research them extensively. So the first thing I do is I look at their core values. What are the things that they actually believe in as an organization? Their characteristics, because this is the main thing that they want to see in an individual applying. And also for me, do I like their core values? Do I really align to their core values? And usually there'll be like a dedicated page on the website, I'd hope. So that really helps. And that kind of gives you the feel and understanding of how the organization is. I would also look at the interview process in general. How hard is it? How long is it? How short is it? That kind of also gives me an understanding of what to do. And I say, do watch a lot of their promotional videos. I remember when I was applying for RBS NatWest, I went to YouTube, just search for anything I could find, even watching interviews with our previous CEO, Ross McEwen, trying to just understand more of the company, not also from them presenting themselves, applied to a graduate program, but also them presenting themselves to the media and to the world. And that kind of gives me almost a different perspective to maybe other people that may be applying. And one thing I think would be very good, if you go on Google, just type NatWest or whatever company it is, then click on the news. So you can see recent news based on the company. Then you really see what the company is actually doing. And I actually did this a couple of days ago and just found out some things that I didn't even know myself as an employee. So I think those are some tips that I would give.
Great, thanks, Adam. I think there's some great tips, and doing the news thing is a really good tip, because I think it helps you when you come to your interview as well to know a little bit about what your organization or the company you've applied for is currently doing. It gives you that sort of edge and stuff to talk about with the assessors on the day and build that relationship. So no, thank you, great tips. Sally or Zanang, I don't know if either of you we'll come to one more of you. Sally, you're off mute, we'll come to you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think I'm probably pretty similar to Adam in that I would start by just kind of looking at the website and the core values. I think once I've kind of understood that the values align with my own personal values, I would then start to look at kind of the early career site in specific. I think, they've got brochures, kind of more details about the program. And another thing that I find really useful is looking at kind of the videos. They have a lot of kind of video testimonials and kind of vlogs as well, which kind of shows what it's actually like to work there. So that's something that I thought was really helpful to see actually from someone who's kind of on the program, how they found it, as opposed to just kind of reading about it. I think it just brings it to life a bit more. And I think exactly what Adam said as well about kind of looking at the news and seeing what's happening recently. And I think as well, kind of in NatWest in particular, looking back to kind of around the financial crisis and kind of looking at the news stories from then versus now. Because I think that really shows kind of the journey that we've been on as an organisation. And obviously that's not just kind of the bank, I'm sure a lot of different employers would be the same. You can kind of compare the journey that they've been on. That's something that's really interesting to kind of ask at the end of an interview, kind of specifically about the change in the journey and the trajectory that the business is on.
Great. Thanks, Sally. And we do know that actually graduates and students, one of the big thing that they want to see from organizations is what it actually is like to work somewhere, what the culture is like, what the day-to-day is like. So as you said, looking at some of those videos from graduates or employers within the business is a really good way of doing that. And also joining events like today. So all of you that are on the call, I think you're making the great first steps into applying and understanding more about a business, what they do, the people that work there. So I think that's a really good start for all of you that are coming along. And you get to chat to grads and hear firsthand from them as well. So we'll just go to the next question now. So one of the stages that people find most difficult or maybe unnatural, as I mentioned earlier, is the video interview stage. It can be really strange to just sit in front of a camera and film yourself recording answers. So how did you guys prepare for your video interview? Have you got any advice for someone going through this process on what they can do to either calm the nerves or to make it sort of less uncomfortable? I want to hear from you guys. So Nang, I see you're off mute.
Yeah, so I do remember that was my first ever video interview I did. So it did feel really weird. One thing I felt that helped was I shot a few practice videos, and it will feel really, really corny, but it's a good opportunity to practice, like looking at the camera, making sure that you've got the angles right, the lighting right. You kind of don't want to give any, like, excuse to eliminate you based on your surroundings and your setup. So just make sure you're happy with your setup, and that kind of makes you feel more comfortable going into the actual interview. So yeah, once I knew that I could sort of resist the temptation to look at myself and focus on the camera, and like I was flowing naturally and everything, I felt a lot better about it.
Great. And just make sure you don't submit one of your practice videos as the actual thing, but you can't anyway because you record it on the spot. Sally or Adam, either of you? Sally, I think you're off mute.
Yeah, I think, sorry, there's a dog barking now. Perks of working from home. I think just another thing, just off the back of that, one thing that I did was kind of time myself. Oh gosh, now I've got a cat on my desk. It's all happening here. Yeah, just time myself, because when you do the video interview stage, it is kind of under time limits. So it's good to get an idea of kind of how long an answer is. So that you can kind of, when you're on the day and you're in the interview itself, you can kind of adjust your answer accordingly. Because there are obviously some questions that you might expect to come up and would kind of prep for a bit more. So that's just to kind of build on that point.
Great, thank you. And Adam, we were discussing just before the call started on some of the things that you might do before an assessment centre to amp yourself up and get yourself ready. So could you share your advice on how to sort of calm the nerves before an assessment centre or get yourself ready to go? Because I think you had some great tips there.
Yeah, it's definitely not conventional. So I don't know who gave me this idea, but what I did, and literally I did this before my RBS video interview. I just went on YouTube, watched lots of funny videos, stretched myself, like do anything crazy to make myself feel positive and happy and relaxed. Because once you're positive and happy, then you actually feel a bit more natural in yourself. You don't feel like, oh no, I'm going to speak to someone who might fire me or hire me. No, it's just more, you're a bit more relaxed and calm. So really focus on that. And I'd also add on to that, body language is very, very important. So if you are feeling relaxed and happy, you're much more approachable. And if you feel a bit stiff and serious, even though you may be taking it seriously, you won't come across as approachable as you should. And therefore, it won't really help you in the video interview. So body language, but literally just make yourself happy, laugh, dance, do what you like before, just to make sure you're feeling good.
Perfect. And make sure you're not dialed into Zoom whilst you're there doing some sort of dance, or do. I mean, you know, we invite everyone to be who they want to be. So if you want to dance on camera, that's more than fine. All right. So Sally and I don't know if you guys have any other tips to add to that. No. Cool, no problem. So we were discussing before around some tips for interviews and sort of shared that STAR technique and the grid. Did any of you use a similar sort of thing when you were preparing for your interviews at Assessment Centre? Or if not, what did you use to prepare for that?
Yeah, so I used the STAR technique kind of when I was thinking about my answers. So obviously that's great for kind of on the day. But I think when you're kind of in the interview itself, one important thing I think to remember is just to try and kind of create a nice informal environment. I think as Adam was saying, you know, if you're relaxed, you're going to come across even better. So just remember, you know, the person that you're chatting with wants you to do well. And kind of building up that relationship is great, because it means if you do end up coming back on one of our programs, then you'll already have a connection within the business, and you can just kind of make it informal by asking a few questions about them as well, and just kind of make it a two-way conversation, and then that will really help you to kind of come out of your shell and kind of just feel be really positive and just kind of show your potential as well.
Great. Yeah, and I think it is just remembering that they're just people. Your interviewers, they're they're friendly. Everyone is very friendly that comes along. So keeping that sort of casual, comfortable vibe will hopefully help people. So I know you'd come off mute there, but I might just come to you to start us off in terms of we'll do one more question, and it's just about 2 pieces of advice that you would give people preparing to apply next week when our application's open. What would your top 2 tips be? And we'll go around to Adam and Sally after.
Yeah, so I would say actually hold yourself to that. Be strict with yourself and apply. Actually apply next week. I applied really early as well, and though it meant that I had to wait a bit longer to hear whether I got through to the assessment centre, I think it did help in the outcome. Because if you kind of fit the bill, if you like, you will be will be put through. It's not. So it's in your advantage to apply earlier. And yeah, also just make sure you have an overview of the process and start thinking about the tests and like the situational judgment test. It'll be a good time to practice some of the numerical and verbal reasoning ones as well. Like you are given a bit of time to sit them, but you don't want to be kind of going through things at the last minute and realizing, oh, there are a couple of things you need to brush up on and practice again. You want to kind of leave yourself enough time to do that. So yeah, be strict with time and be organized.
Love it. Great advice. Adam, have you got your 2 bits of advice to add in there?
Yeah, I hope it'll be 2, but it's kind of weird. So the first one, I would literally just say practice. So if you have a week, that is still quite a lot of time that you can use for your advantage. Practice your interviews to make sure your body language is okay. Practice your numerical stuff, usually around ratios and percentages. What you need to learn is to do that at pace. If you had an hour to do it, I think everyone would get 100%, or at least close to 100%. But once you have like 10, 15 minutes, it's really hard. So you need to really learn to do that. And I would say one tip that I think actually helped me in my assessment center is, like I was saying with like the Google News things, go over and above with the research that you do. Because if you say something that a lot of people may not know was quite unique, or just kind of really show you've done your research, that would really impress them. And I think I did convey that in my assessment center, and it really helped. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Great. Thanks, Adam. And then Sally, come to you to finish the job.
Absolutely. So I think my 2 tips, the first one would be learn about the bank's purpose. As I'm sure a lot of you on the call are aware, the bank is a purpose-led organisation. And it really does kind of underpin all of the activity that goes on here. So I think it's great that if you know about the purpose, you can bring that into a few of your answers, and also just make sure that the purpose does align with your own drivers, because that would make sure that you do kind of really succeed if you get a position within the banks. I think just having that awareness and being able to kind of pull upon that when you're going through any of the processes. I think another one as well is just kind of have confidence in yourself as you go through the process. For me, when I was applying, I felt very daunted by the whole thing. None of my family work in banking, and I don't really know anyone else who does. So when I was applying, I was thinking it was going to be, your stereotypical middle-aged male banker. But it's not like that at all. So something I would say is just have confidence that you would belong here if your values and your motivations align with the banks, and just kind of go with that, show your passion for working here, and just know that, if you were to get through the stage, then it's kind of extremely diverse and inclusive within the working culture. So if you want to work here and you have that drive, then there will be a space for you if you do well in the application process. So I think just a couple of top tips there.
Great, thanks, Ali. And I think that's a great message to end on in terms of having that confidence to apply. And if you make it through our full process, you're obviously someone that we see as a great fit to come in and work for us. So do just back yourself and believe in yourself. So that's all the grilling from me, but now we're going to put it back to you guys. So the guys that are attending the call, if you want to grill these guys whilst we've got them, then please do ask your questions. So we'd encourage you to raise your hand, and what we'll do is we'll bring you into the main room if you do raise your hand, and you can ask your question live. But if you're more comfortable, there is the Q&A box down the bottom. I can see we've got some great questions coming through in there already. So we might start with some of the ones in the Q&A box whilst we see if anybody's got any raised hands. But Dave, just let me know if anyone is coming into the main room to ask their question. But if not, we'll go through some of these just now. So the first question here is, have you guys got any tips for the situational judgment test specifically?
I think for that one, just don't kind of think about what the bank wants you to answer. I think it's very easy to kind of think about like, oh, what are they looking for? But it's not like that at all. It's just seeing whether you are kind of your, I guess, values align with the banks. So just kind of look at them, obviously take your time to read through all the answers, but don't think there's kind of one thing that they're looking for and that you have to kind of answer the way that they want, because, chances are it wouldn't be quite as kind of clear cut as that. So I think just kind of be yourself and go with what you think is your first impression.
Great, thank you, Adam. Zanang, anything to add there?
Yeah, it's kind of there to suss out your personality. So just sort of imagine yourself in the shoes of being a colleague in the bank and how you would respond in that situation, rather than making it feel, coerced or trying to think about what the bank would like to hear. So some echoes of what Sally said.
Great, thank you. And I can see we've had a few questions here around if you're an international student. So yes, absolutely, you can still apply for our programs. If you're successful in being made an offer and you do require sponsorship, then we will look into that, look into sponsoring you when you're made an offer. So yes, do please still apply. What have we got next? So Dave, have we got anyone that wants to come into the main room yet? Any brave people wanting to ask their question live?
Currently, we have no raised hands, but as a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, please do raise your hand and we'll bring you into the meeting to ask your question. Nikki, I'll hand back to you for now.
Great, thank you. That's fine. We've got plenty to go through here. So someone is just asking, so Jeffrey wants to know, how did you show the value you could add to NatWest? So how did you guys show what you could bring, I guess, and what do you think is missing at NatWest as well?
I can kick us off. So I think the part where you can kind of really, obviously within your interview you can as well, but I think the individual assessment is a great place to kind of show your how you'd add value. So that's one of the stages at the assessment centre. So with my assessment centre, we got given kind of a pack of information, and then we had to read through it, make some decisions, and then pitch it to a colleague within the bank. And that's a opportunity for you to kind of point out some places that there's opportunities and just kind of really show how you'd think outside the box. And obviously your idea, whatever you're pitching, doesn't need to actually be something that's, going to come into practice next week, but just kind of show your big picture thinking and how creative you can be. And obviously that's kind of at the assessment centre stage, so kind of towards the end. But I'm sure within the video interview, there would be opportunities to kind of point out some areas that you think would kind of, I guess, be improved within the bank. And that's another time when your kind of research would come in really handy. So if you're kind of looking through any news stories and stuff, jot down things that you think could be made, could be done even better. And then you could kind of pop those in when you're answering in your video interview.
Great. Yeah, it's always a good idea to bring outside information into these things as well, just to show that you've got that knowledge and you've done that research and that you are really motivated to apply for us. Great, thank you, Sally. Tom, we might come to you for this next question. So the question is just around what's involved in an assessment centre day and how can you really stand out?
Yes, good question. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming along and for putting me on the spot as well with these some of these questions. But yes, in terms of the assessment centre, so what you can expect is once you get the call from someone in our assessment centre booking team to confirm the date of your assessment centre, and sort of they'll be sending you some initial materials and guides to get you a little bit warmed up of what you might expect. And then after you've had that call to book the date in, that will follow up with an invitation to join our assessment centre platform. And this will normally happen about a week before your assessment centre date. So you'll get provided with a login and you can access the platform that you'll be using on the actual day to complete all your activities. And you'll see on there that there's a couple of guides to make sure you're all prepared and set to go. So it helps you out with things like Zoom, choosing a background, even simple things such as what to wear, and a bit around sort of how to conduct yourself too. And then on the actual day, when you log in, you'll see that there's a series of activities for you to complete as well, which your lead facilitator on the day, which could be myself, so you could be seeing me again, will be sort of guiding you throughout the assessment centre day. And those activities include a sort of a one-to-one meeting. You've also got a bit of group activity or a group discussion to complete. And then you've also got an interview, which Nikki mentioned earlier as well. So those are the sort of the key areas, and we'll provide you with a lot more guidance and information a bit more closer to the time and around the week before your assessment centre too. But in terms of how to make a real positive impression, I guess it's factoring in a lot of the key tips that we've shared already. So I think the first one is just to be prepared. So make sure you really use that guidance that we send you out in the weeks before to the max. Make sure you're sort of all set up in Zoom and you know exactly what to do the morning of, so there's no last minute rushes or panics trying to get dialed in, because we want you, of course, to come in as relaxed and ready to go as possible. And also just have a bit of an open mind, so you can do all the preparation in the world in terms of getting your head around the critical people capabilities, planning your STAR examples and doing your research about the company and our purpose. But I think as well, you've kind of got to just be prepared a little bit to sort of jump in and take and sort of tackle a variety of different things. And that's not to say that we'll be trying to put you on the spot and under pressure wherever possible. You know, we want you to succeed and do as well as possible across the assessment centre. So go in with an open mind, ask any questions about the activities as well. So if you're not quite sure what we're asking you to do, there's absolutely no harm in calling that out, and we can go over information or reword it slightly too. So it's to ask questions and also just try and get your passions across the day as well through those examples and the CPCs or the critical people capabilities. So really try and get across what it is about the programme or the role you've applied for, and also more broadly the bank too. But hopefully that helps to answer the question.
Fab, thank you, Tom. I think that was super useful, and I think it is about just being as prepared as you can for the assessment centre day, but then just enjoying the day once you're on it. You'll get to the day and know that you've done as much preparation as you can, and then just enjoy the day and be yourself. I think would be my big tip, and it does make a difference if you do that pre-preparation. But as you say, there's going to be some stuff on the day that will test you on the spot, so just make sure that you're prepared for that. Great, so thank you, Tom. So there is a question here from Nashil around, does it make a difference if you apply on the first day or in the first week? How quickly do we need to apply? So in terms of first day versus first week, it's not going to make a huge difference, but we're just encouraging that you do apply as early as you can. But having said that, make sure you're applying for the right program. So don't just apply as quickly as you can because you want to get an application in. You're only going to be considered for one program with us. So just make sure you take that time to really understand what all our programs are and where you will fit best. So we did do a session earlier this week on skills matching as part of our Represent series. So if you didn't manage to make that one on Tuesday, then when you go sent through the information at the end of the series, do have a look through that and see if it can help you match the right program if you're a little bit unsure. But yes, we're going to get likely loads of applications this year. We're expecting quite a lot. So make sure you do get them in early, but take the time before you do to apply for the right program and to really understand why you're applying for us as well. There's no point in applying just for the sake of it. Make sure you are really sort of motivated to work for us and also for the right program. So that would be what I would say on that one. What other good stuff have we got in here? A few questions around how you practice for interviews and exactly what we're looking for. But in terms of practicing, I might come out to our grads and then I can sort of chat through a bit about what we're looking for. But to our grads, have you got any tips on practicing for interviews?
Yeah. So I would just say, do the STAR method. For me, I just sort of almost every single question that could be possibly asked. You can easily Google like the top 100 questions asked and just kind of get a general gist of each one. So I remember like 1 or 2 days before my AC, my assessment center, I was just practicing with all those questions. And after that, I just had complete confidence. When I went to my actual interview, there were obviously some questions that I hadn't heard of, but because they were similar to the questions I've learned, I was able to still answer the question. So I just say when it comes to these questions, the trick is to not panic and just to be relaxed and then answer it as if it was a conversation. If your interview goes like a conversation, then I think you should be fine. So hopefully that answers your question.
Can I jump in as well, Nikki, if that's okay? Yeah, just because I was in a similar situation quite a few years ago myself, applying for assessment centres, including the NatWest one. But I think for me, it's important to have STAR examples, but I don't know if anyone else in the call is sort of worried about being able to remember everything you've done. I know sometimes I can't remember what I ate for dinner last night, let alone all the different examples I've had throughout my university and career. But it may be useful as well to make sure you've got some really clear, well-structured STAR examples that link to our critical people capabilities. So you might want to think about sort of a couple or one for each, just so you're really prepared to be able to tackle each of those areas. But then it also might be useful if you're worried about sort of being able to remember every single example in full detail. If you've got like sort of a handful, 5 or so, really well structured, it might be that you also have a little pot of other sort of examples that you can just draw upon if you need them, that maybe you haven't practiced in much detail, but you've got in the back of your mind ready to go if, for example, you've used all your good stars sort of in the first 10 minutes of the interview and you need some other ideas. So it might be that you want some really well rehearsed ones, but you've also got a little pool of sort of examples on the side that you can bring to life if you need to as well. And then when it goes to actually sort of talking about your examples in the interview and meeting the assessor, I always made sure to use sort of the buzzwords. So when I was using the star, it keeps me on track. So you could even be as obvious as saying, so the situation was I did X, Y, and Z, and that meant the task that I was assigned. So if you're using these buzzwords, it helps your assessor as well to sort of see where you're going with your example, and it keeps you on track as well to make sure you can be as concise and you can get everything put across that you intended to as well.
Great tips, thank you, Tom. And yeah, the assessor will likely be looking for you to use the STAR technique. So don't worry about actually, as Tom said, being as straightforward as just saying situation, task, action, and results. So thank you. And then that brings us to the end of our time today. That's absolutely flown by. And I know we had some great questions there that we didn't manage to get to, but what we will do is we're going to be sending out an email with our link to our online career insight guide, which has loads and loads of detail about all of our programs, our application steps, tips for applying. It's got videos from some of our previous graduates. So that's probably going to answer a lot of those questions we weren't able to get to today. So have a look at that when we do send it out. And we will also send out the material from today's session as well for you, as I said, at the end of the series. But that's it for today. We hope you found that really valuable and you're feeling much more confident and prepared to make your application when we open next week. They will be opening on Monday, so keep an eye out on our Early Careers website for that. Once they're live, as I said, choose which program suits you and which is best for you to apply for, and work through each of our stages at a steady pace. We'd encourage you to use sessions like today to prepare yourself to apply early. This year, we're not actually going to have closing dates on our programs. They will just close once we've got enough applications to fill our assessment centres. So we would hate for you to miss out. So do make sure you get them in early, but make sure you're applying for the right program. We do also have 5 more events lined up within the Represent series. So if you haven't already signed up, then please make sure you do to get the most out of the series. And also to take full advantage of all the tips and insight on offer over the next 3 weeks. It's an invaluable chance to get an insight into life here at NatWest Group and engage with some really inspiring colleagues. We've got some amazing speakers coming along to our next sessions, which will hopefully make you create a standout application. But I want to say thank you so much to our grads, Sally, Adam, and Zanang today, and also for Tom for coming along. It was great for you to share your advice and tips there. But thank you everyone for attending, and hopefully we'll see you at the next events.